welcome back to Jay's Retro Toys and Games. Oh boy, it's another time for the dawn of the digital epoch. Humanity did not crave complex narratives, open world exploration, or photorealistic graphics. No, the humans of 1980 craved raw speed, pixelated smoke, and the constant crushing anxiety of blowing up a virtual engine in under 6 seconds. Welcome to a special investigative broadcast from Jay's Retro Toys and Games, the only place on earth where the smell of 40-year-old plastic is considered a fine perfume and cardboard box condition is argued with religious fervor. Today we chronicle the history of a game so brief, yet so profoundly stressful, it altered the course of human history. This is the story of Dragster, the absolute crown jewel of the early Activision empire and the ultimate test of human reflexes. In fact, here's what the game sounded like back in the days. Here's the playing of the Dragster. On episode number 133 of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. Your host, Jason Nicanio, welcoming you to this June 23rd episode on this Tuesday after Father's Day. Hope you had a great Father's Day weekend. It was relaxing for me. We're back here for another week of Retro Toys and Games, episode 133, on our look on the continuation of the Activision series of games, and this takes us to Dragster. So, without further ado, let's delve right in and take a look at this interesting game. But to understand the artifact known as Dragster, we must first understand the great corporate schism of 1979. At the time, Atari was the undisputed king of the living room, but corporate management treated their software programmers like anonymous factory drones, refusing to put their names on the boxes or offer royalties. 4 rogue programming geniuses looked at the corporate overlords and said, "Smell you later," walking out the door to form Activision, the world's very first independent third-party game developer. They wanted fame, they wanted glory, and most importantly, they wanted to give the world a game about drag racing that required absolutely zero steering. Developer David Crane sat down and wrote a piece of code so incredibly tight it could fit into a cartridge with less memory than a modern text message. When the cartridge arrived on store shelves in 1980, it didn't look like the boring, generic text boxes of the past. It was vibrant, colorful, and promised high-octane thrills. Today, behind the glass counter at Jay's Retro Toys and Games, a pristine copy of Dragster sits like a holy relic under lock and key. Jay guards it with his life, mostly because he knows that inside that tiny plastic housing lies the exact moment the video game industry realized it could make millions of dollars by making people intensely frustrated. The gameplay mechanics of Dragster are a masterclass in minimalist psychological torture. The screen presents the player with 2 minimalist race cars and a countdown timer. The objective is deceptively simple. Drive from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen. The distance is a mere 400 virtual feet, but the catch is a brutal lesson in physics. If you do not shift your gears with the pixel-perfect precision of a Swiss watchmaker, your engine blows up. Your car turns into a sad pile of digital scrap metal, and the word blown mockingly flashes across your television screen in a bright neon taunt. At Jay's, veteran gamers can be seen staring at the vintage Dragster cartridges, their thumbs twitching with involuntary muscle memory from decades ago. To survive a heat in Dragster, you had to clench your jaw, pull the joystick back to shift gears, and pump the big red button to accelerate, all while keeping your tachometer out of the red zone, and it was a game that did not care about your feelings or your self-esteem. It lasted less than 6 seconds per round, meaning you could experience the entire emotional spectrum of hope, panic, failure, and deep existential dread roughly 10 times a minute, making it the most efficient stress delivery system of the 20th century. And while David Crane may have programmed the game in a sterile laboratory, the true history of Dragster was written in the trenches of the American living room. For one legendary gamer, a young pioneer named Jason DeCanio, that's me, the ultimate battlefield was located at his aunt and uncle's house back in the glorious wood-paneled year of 1980. This was an era of peak interior design where the walls were wrapped in glorious fall wood paneling. The television was a piece of heavy oak furniture that doubled as a status symbol, and the snacks consisted of ungodly amounts of cheese dip and soda in glass bottles. Well, maybe not that much as far as the snacks were concerned. It was more like Doritos and pretzels and chips. It was here, wedged between a floral print sofa and a massive ceramic lamp, that Jason DeCanio forged memories that would be permanently burned into his psyche. The memories made in that living room are baked deep into the very matrix of the game's legacy. Winning a round didn't result in a digital trophy or an internet leaderboard spot. For Jason, it meant ultimate bragging rights, while his uncle yelled from the kitchen about the electric bill, and his aunt threatened to banish everyone to the backyard if the joystick slamming didn't cease. There was no internet to tell Jason the best gear shifting strategy. He had to figure out the rhythm through pure, agonizing trial and error, fueled by pure sugar and the desperate desire to shave 1/100th of a second off of his time. Jay's Retro Toys and Games survives today because it acts as a physical portal back to that exact living room, allowing guys like Jason to stand at the counter, touch a cartridge, and instantly smell the coffee cake from 1980. No history of Dragster would be complete without exploring the darkest, most controversial chapter in the annals of competitive electronic sports. In 1982, a gamer named Todd Rogers claimed a world record time of 5.51 seconds. Now, for over 3 decades, this number stood as the absolute pinnacle of human achievement, recognized by Twin Galaxies and the Guinness Book of World Records. Players flocked to shops like Jay's for decades, buying up replacement joysticks and wearing down their cartilage, trying to replicate the mythical 5.51 second run. But the universe is a cruel mistress to legends. And decades later, modern speedrunners and data scientists ran the Dragster source code through highly advanced computer simulations to see how it ticked. The verdict was a bombshell. This simulation proved that the game code literally, physically prevents a human being from achieving a time faster than 5.57 seconds without cheating. The record was stripped, the gaming community was shattered, and Todd's mythical run was relegated to the status of digital folklore. Jay keeps a specialized controversy corner in his shop where patrons still argue about the 5.51 record over cans of retro soda, proving that a 30-year-old math problem can still cause shouting matches among grown men. In the current era of gaming, achieving a high score gets you a digital badge that disappears the second corporate servers inevitably shut down. But back in 1980, Activision offered the ultimate prize: physical, tangible immortality. If you were skilled enough to achieve a time of 5.6 seconds or less in Dragster, you didn't just brag to your friends. You took a physical Polaroid photograph of your television screen, stuffed it into an envelope with a stamp, and mailed it to Activision headquarters and waited by the mailbox for weeks. Eventually, the mail carrier would deliver a package containing a beautiful embroidered Activision Dragster world-class driving team patch. Snagging one of these patches meant you were a god among men at school recess. Jay's Retro Toys and Games treats these vintage fabric patches with the same reverence museums give to the Magna Carta. To hold a Dragster cartridge today is to remember an era when video games were simple, records were highly litigious, and the ultimate dream of a child in 1980 was to sit on their aunt and uncle's carpet, conquer a 6-second race, and prove they had the fastest thumb in the West. But let me clarify something real quick. This script was a nostalgic script. My memories of Dragster were very simple. Stare at the game for 5 seconds, hit the red button, and blow up the engine. I found more pleasure in blown engines than I did actually trying to get from one side of the screen to the other, because at the age of 3.5, I didn't know how to get over from the left side to the right side. It wasn't about some 20 to 22 years later when I actually saw the booklet for Dragster and figured out how to shift on the controller. Finally, with that information in my hand, I was able to go in, play the game properly, and set a recordable time. Still, my favorite thing about Dragster is the blown engine and the wonderful sound effects that Activision puts into its games. So if you are familiar with some of these Activision games that we're attributing, of course, in our 5th season, you'll hear some of those definitely as we try to play some sound bites that are very quick. But at the same time, remember, of course, the game is only as good as if you played it and remember it. Like I said, most of the games that I remember playing for the Atari were at my aunt's house because she had Atari. I didn't get ColecoVision until 1982. So, had to play Atari at my aunt's house while it still worked. And most of the time, the cartridges were getting flimsy and Atari was getting a little bit what we call weathered down because of cold and heat, and when the two mix, it makes for a bad connection when it comes to playing a game. But what can you say when you have that memory in your mind? I say, we'll see you the next time for another look at more Retro Toys and Games. Episode 134 coming up this Thursday. What will we talk about? Stay tuned. Till then, have a great day. Bye for now.